Okay, we're going to open the meeting, so please join us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Councilperson Vargas Mendez. Yes. Here.
Here.
Yes. Councilperson Davis. Councilperson Lamb.
Yes.
Supervisor Leifer.
Here. All right, first up is I'll move to approve the meeting minutes of May 4th. First.
Second.
That's Spring. That was your
Me, Christina.
Christina.
Tina. Councilperson Vargas Mendez. Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Yes. This is thingish. Right, so first thing is on the agenda is the opening the public hearing for 53 Pinckney Road site plan review and special use permit application. So that's Sebastian.
Yeah, we have Sebastian Martinez and Nick Camacho representing both. Zoom.
Yep.
Hi, that's right.
Yeah, and he's already
Hello.
able to
Yeah.
share screen. So
Okay. So this is a special use permit application that was introduced. We're having a public hearing tonight. This is to amend their special use permit to add 19 storage units on the site, 3 Pinckney Road. I'll let the applicants introduce their project, and then we can talk about planning board and County 239.
yeah, so whenever you're ready, Sebastian.
Okay.
Typically here, yeah. Can everybody hear me all right?
Yes.
Perfect. So good evening, everyone. This is Nick Camacho, I'm the construction manager at Bolt Storage. We're presenting this proposed expansion for the existing self-storage facility at 53 Pinckney Road. So as you guys mentioned, this project includes the addition of 19 modular storage units. These are going to be placed along the perimeter of the existing fence area, which you can see in the red hatch on the right part and bottom part of the facility. These are prefabricated 8x20 units. They're going to be assembled on site, totaling approximately 3,040 square feet of additional storage. We're also including some minor site adjustments, which refer basically to 2 additional parking spaces, which are shown on the left part of the property with the blue hatch. And we also want to highlight the relocation of the existing fence line along the north side of the property, approximately 38 feet to the south. So this creates additional open space that could support the town's future plan. The town's future rail trail plans provide more long-term benefits for the community here. So this is basically the overview for this project, and we're going to be happy to answer any questions here.
Yeah, hi Nick. This is Dan Lamb. Where is the rail trail on this map?
So that's going to be the top of the screen. Right now, the fence is located along the property line, which is the approximately, I think it's the red line, the dotted line. And we're proposing, thanks for that, yeah. We're proposing to relocate this to the south so we can open that area for the trail, which we were informed by the city, by the town, that this is going to go across all orthogonal line or parallel line to the property line, if that makes sense.
Okay, so is it a chain link fence or what type of fence is it?
Yeah, chain link fence, correct.
So there would be no way for patrons of the rail trail to get onto your property. Is that correct?
Exactly.
All right, great.
We just want to confirm that the additional storage units will be outside of the 50-foot buffer of the stream.
Correct. So initially we had those located closer to the main gate. And given those comments we got from the board, we decided to move them on. We actually removed a couple storage units to make sure we were outside of the buffer. So before we used to have 24, now we relocated everything just to have 19. And we are going to be staying out of that buffer, yes.
Excellent, thank you.
I mean, do we have any comments from, any more questions from public? Yep. If you could just come up over here, because otherwise it's kind of hard to.
My name is, my name is Ben Brown. I live at 29 Pickney Road, which is on the. My question is basically how close to the power lines that go on the, between the storage units and my house? Are you coming above the powerhouses or not?
Thanks for that question. Yeah, no, we're going to stay within the current fence line limits. So we're not going to be going beyond that. You're going to see a slight fence movement on the east of this image. So in order for us to accommodate those 8 units that we have along that side, we're going to be pushing that fence approximately 10 feet. But that's all the movement you're going to see right here. So we're not getting closer to the electrical lines.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Right, does this already account for the 239 comment about?
Yeah, the 239 review, they mentioned the 50-foot, respecting the 50-foot stream buffer. So the initial development plans were modified to move development out of that 50-foot buffer. That was also enforced by the planning board's comments. And the other twist on this site is that they are proposing putting the storage containers along the southern fence line where the Dominion property is. And that would require a variance. So it needs relief of the 7.5-foot side yard setback from the ZBA. So that will be heard next month. The planning board did recommend that approval of that. It's a commercial site. The existing chain link between the two properties, they would just be putting it with a 0-foot setback instead of 7.5 foot.
Does anybody else have any other questions? Okay. Anyone who's on Zoom have any questions? Okay, so I have to hold this open for another couple of minutes. I think. Then we can close it and then do
And
seeker.
then do seeker, yeah.
Yeah, so, we'll move on to just open the public hearing on the next one, which is for 2150 Dryden Road. Site plan is review, special use permit application. But on this one, we're not gonna be taking any action on.
So this again was introduced last month, set a hearing for this month. This is a repair garage for 2150 Dryden Road. We have the owner here, Emil, and his representative, Marty Mosley.
And are you up on? Yeah, you're there. Yep. Right, should be all set.
Well, technology worked, isn't that great? So good evening. Thank you for allowing us to be in front of you tonight. My name is Marty Mosley. I'm from Municipal Relations Consulting. And the owner of Speedline Garage is sitting next to me, Emil. You have seen this in the past, but there's modifications. Planning board has seen this a couple times. And some of the items of note, this as far as location goes, this is next to the Willow Glen Cemetery. Route 13 is in this area where my cursor is, and the buildings that we're going to be discussing are in the back in this white area. Based on many comments that have come in, we've tried to modify the plans. We spec consulting on board to provide some additional drawings and or analysis. One of the items of note is the fire apparatus access road. So right now, the apparatus access road is unimproved. The proposal would be to have a 20-foot wide apparatus access and then have turnouts as depicted on the drawings. So one is to try to minimize any soil disturbance activities. Two is to try to provide some additional turnout areas for vehicles to pass by, any emergency vehicles that are on site. And then also showing the fire apparatus turnaround area, which is again in my cursor area with the backup turning area coming up towards the buildings. The proposal is for a repair garage to be in this smaller building where the cursor is now. And then there's a storage building. Both of those buildings were agricultural in nature last time or previously. And so the proposal is a change in occupancy. There's no proposal to have an addition or an extension of the existing buildings, so the footprint. There is a proposed sign near the road, so utilizing some of the graphics and then vegetation below. And then in addition to show parking areas, one of the comments out of the planning board was to show this parking area and ask how many vehicles could be placed in that area, having a maximum limit identified. Roughly about 70 vehicles could be placed in that area only, and that would be vehicles that are awaiting repair. Visitor parking areas are up near the building where my cursor is as well. So that's where the vehicle parking areas would be. In addition, there's also a oil water separator that's been added on the exterior to minimize any spills that are occurring. And any of the lighting that's on site would also be dark sky compliant and identified as, I believe, 27 to 5,000 Kelvin. And if you have any questions, and we can answer them for you. Or we can step away and allow others to come up.
Yeah, no, we can keep going.
So there were site plan modifications made in response to the
Yeah,
both fire department comments and the planning board comments. Code enforcement from the town went out on site this week on Tuesday, and there were nearly 100 vehicles on the site in various states of dismantling. So it's being operated as a junkyard, which is not allowed use in this district. So I would recommend that until it, and yeah, you can respond in a moment, recommend that we not pursue this until they come into compliance and not operate that way. You had a response?
Yeah, could you, because this term's been used multiple times already, operating as a junkyard. Can you define the definition of a junkyard?
I should probably pull up the definition. I believe you received it in writing a few times.
I mean, it's sort
So
of
having inoperable vehicles and unlike.
Yes. Yes. So I personally buy a lot of vehicles because I'm an enthusiast, hobbyist, and sort of like blend it together with my own business. So I have a lot of vehicles that are inoperable because they just sit there until I get to them to repair. So I don't typically store any customer vehicle that is beyond repair. Every vehicle that I have on there is either used for my own personal use or with intention to fixing it up and eventually maybe selling it or keeping it for whatever reason. Nothing is sitting there dismantled to the point where it can't be put back together. A junkyard is, by my definition, is a facility that buys vehicles for sole purpose of dismantling and selling the parts. I use some of the vehicles as my own personal part storage, I guess you want to call it, because acquiring some of the parts are like really difficult. So I have everything on hand for myself, and when the vehicle is either fixed or beyond repair, it gets picked up by anybody who's willing to take it and take to the scrap. So I guess me personally, I don't like it to be considered as a junkyard, and there's not even close to 100 cars in the yard.
Well, as far as mixing a commercial business and a hobby, that becomes a hard thing. And it's really on you to prove that it is not a junkyard as defined in our zoning. It's not incumbent upon the town to prove. It's incumbent upon
being a licensed dismantler requires a special permit by New York State. That's something I never wanted to do because it's a completely different business that I have no interest in ever running because it's a very difficult and unique thing to do. I simply want to do repair vehicles, either my own or customers. And I think that's what I've been doing for many years now.
Yes.
So in the event that it sounds like the town would like the vehicles to be cleaned up and not be considered a junkyard. So could we use the existing storage barn on site? Is that an option?
I mean, that's the plan. It's
Okay,
just
so-
currently everything is, we're in this limbo that I would like to resolve.
Well, just asking for clarification.
Well, I think part of the planning board recommendations was to set a limit on the number of vehicles. So we've had
Right.
that typically in other special use permits for
Correct.
other automobile dealerships, auto repair garages. So I think something on the order of, we have a site with 40 and another site with 50 as a limit. So there gives you the leeway to have a certain amount of vehicles in transition. When it gets to be a huge number, like what was observed was near 100, that goes, it fits more like a junkyard to outward appearance. So again, it's incumbent upon you to prove that you're not operating a junkyard as defined in town of Dryden zoning.
Correct, yes, and I can prove it by providing every single title for every single one of those vehicles that I possess. So by that logic, if I brought you, let's say 54 titles, that means 46 of them is customer cars being repaired, which is not a thing because I don't have that many customers waiting to be repaired.
Yeah. If you go into the code, it talks about registered vehicles and you're only allowed to have one unregistered vehicle on site. So that's why repair businesses typically are working on customers' cars that have registration.
Yeah.
So
I
if we
can-
were to utilize the barn, just for clarification, if we were to utilize the existing storage building and remove some of those cars into there, would that satisfy some of the concerns?
I guess that's up to the discretion of the boards as to whether putting it out of sight makes it.
Yeah, it's,
Well, I would
Okay.
think we have a certain rigidity here that I think is not reflective of what he's trying to do. You know, he has a certain collection of cars that reflects the very niche business that he's in. Echoing quite a bit. You know, I've seen what's there. They're German cars, and he works on German cars, and so he can pull the parts from those cars for the work that he does. And it's very much out of sight, which is different from a junkyard that'd be right along Route 13 and highly visible. So I'm wondering if there's any room for flexibility here, given that, you know, what he does reflects the business that he's in. And it's not a situation where he accepts any junk vehicle that you want scrapped.
I'm using that term simply because it's defined in our zoning.
Yeah, I'm looking at the definition
Don't mean it to
too.
be a disparaging term at all.
Yeah, it's hard to say it doesn't fit the definition that we have in our zoning code. But a certain amount of nuance seems to be lacking.
yeah, my,
Well, SUP does provide that
Yeah.
discretion to set some parameters around it so that it does not migrate from a repair business to a junkyard.
yeah, I can see where you guys might take issue with the language, but exactly what you're described is how it's described in the code. My own personal take is that my personal concern would be if you've got that many vehicles that are not in use, like, is there any chance oil is leaking out of them? Are they going to be blocking fire access? You know, is there a proper containment for, fluids and all of these things? And when you start getting up to over 75 vehicles, that can be difficult to manage and maintain, ensuring environmental protections. So that would be my question. So it makes more sense to me. You're like, if they're inside a garage, then you're on pavement, you're not going to have spills and things like that. But on a porous surface, that's really a bigger concern. So those are the kinds of things I'd want to make sure we were being careful of if we were granting a variance to the code.
Yeah, ever since starting the business, I've always been careful when it comes to disposing of coolant and oil and everything.
Totally get it, but
Yes.
even the best out there still have challenges. So those are the kinds of things I'm just saying.
I guess to address their concern, is the oil drained from the vehicles that are
Upon arrival, no.
when they're in the, in the waiting area or in, what might be called a yard.
Dismantling.
Well, if the vehicle is not there for purpose of dismantling or repair or whatever, obviously all the fluids are going to be contained within the vehicle, just like any vehicles is sitting out there. If a vehicle has a leaky oil pan, for example, it's no different than having your own car sitting in the parking lot dripping oil, which is not really contained. But when I have a lot of vehicles on my lot, I go through them, obviously, and I do not drain the oil unless it's leaking or it has a front end impact, for example. Then usually that stuff gets drained at the auction where I purchase them, or if they deliver here. In a leaking state, I take care of it either with sand of kitty litter or dispose oil in my own buckets. I have storage.
So wait, how many vehicles do you actually have there?
Excuse me?
How many vehicles do you actually have there, whether they're for your business or personal?
About 54.
Okay, so and you don't want to register as a vehicle dismantler?
No.
Is that because you don't want to comply with the DEC regulations for vehicles?
No, it has nothing to do with it. I have a lot of friends who are dismantlers, and it's a huge headache to deal with that.
Well, I understand it's a headache, but we also have a water body like not far from there. And there's a stream, there's a creek that plenty of people have come in here talking about for years to protect. And and if you have over 50 vehicles there and you are a vehicle dismantler, actually, if you had over 25, you'd have to follow DEC regulations for it. So do you do anything related to the DEC regulations?
All I do is just
Well, hang on, I'm not done. Do you if you have to drain fluids, do you have proper containers for that? Do you have containment pads, containment and pads for dealing with the fluid draining? Do you have stuff to store batteries? Do you, like, when you have
Yep.
things like
Everything.
to store mercury and PCBs, what do you have to do that?
I don't
And do you
tires.
have, do you store, what do you do with the tires you remove?
I don't touch tires. I don't do anything regarding with tires, disposing tires or air conditioning and none of that stuff. The only fluids that I do drain would be your regular gear oil, and then your coolants. And I have 2 containers designed for that. The oil that I usually drain, either used oil or, I guess, any oil from any vehicle get dumped there, and I give it away to any shops that use it for heating. I don't use oil for heating my own shop. I use electricity, unfortunately, but a lot of shops locally use it, so I'll give it away, and local shops use it for heating their shops.
So that was also part of the reason that we installed an exterior grease trap
Right.
on the plans, is to capture any oils that may come out of these containers that he does put the oil in.
Yeah, there's a lot of regulations around the handling of these kinds of materials when you're a business, especially. So it's a little difficult right now because it's like you guys are seeing this many vehicles. We've got people on site saying there's a lot more vehicles. There was a stop work order, but you didn't stop work. So it's hard to just go with the just trust me thing right now.
Be happy to stop in tomorrow morning and give you a picture of every single vehicle in the property, and it's not anywhere close to 100.
Yeah,
Or
and-
bring a title for my own personal.
Well, I mean, yeah, you would be, but the problem is like you don't live there. So it's not your home, it's a business, correct?
Correct.
Right, so you're probably gonna have to register with DEC anyway.
Yeah.
Because the regular, I mean, you're not exempt if you have more than 50 end-of-life vehicles there at any one time, even if you're just a repair shop. So you're gonna have to comply with all these things anyhow.
Yeah, I mean, to ask for an exemption to the zoning, to me, would definitely require making sure that you're in compliance with the DEC rules.
What is the maximum per DSC? It says,
If you're a repair shop and you have vehicles, even if you're not registered as a dismantler, you're gonna have to comply with the DEC regs for dismantlers. And if you have 25 or more, if you're a dismantling facility, you get more than 25 vehicles per year or store more than 50 on site at any time. That's for a registered facility. The exemptions, I mean, I'm not your lawyer, so, I mean, you might want to talk to one, but the following facilities are exempt: motor vehicle repair shops registered with New York State DMV that store no more than 25 end-of-life vehicles on site at any one time. So if you store actually more than 25, you're not exempt.
you said end of life.
End-of-life vehicles. So if they're not being, if they're, I mean, if you have 50 vehicles there that aren't registered and they're not customers or whatever, I mean, you're a repair, that's a business location too. So this isn't your house.
Yeah, end of life is they're not going to go back on the road. Whatever you've got them there for is so that you can pull things from them, but they're not going to go back on the street as roadworthy.
Gotcha. Okay. So the 50 that I own, for example, are not.
What I'm telling you is that my belief is it doesn't matter if you own them or not,
Yeah.
is my point. So if they're customer vehicles or your vehicles, this is a business address. If they're being stored there, they're presumably stored by the business. Are you an LLC or anything like that
I'm DBA.
now, or you're gonna be?
I am now. I'm going to be LLC.
Okay, and then you're the only owner of it?
Yes.
Yeah, so let me put it this way, you're gonna be considered to be like a sole proprietorship for many things at that point. Doesn't matter, like, it seems like you might need to register anyway and follow these rules.
Yeah. The
So-
vehicles are not on my name. They're under my business's name. So
It doesn't matter.
What I'm telling you is you probably will want to talk to somebody knowledgeable on this instead of making assumptions, because if D, like if. That's what I'm telling you.
Do you have concerns with the site plan or anything of that nature? I mean, you've expressed concerns about the DEC, obviously, and MEO having to check in with them and verify, but I just curious.
So you're asking for a waiver on the code? Because
No, I'm not asking for a waiver on the code right now. I'm just saying, is there just anything else with respect to the site plan that you have concerns about right now? That's what I'm asking. Or anything in the narrative. Go on.
not unless there were concerns from the fire department.
Yeah, because you addressed the driveway issue that the fire department had, correct?
We did, yes, and we sent the updated plan to the fire department as well.
They put in the pullouts so that emergency vehicles could pass each other.
Yeah.
There's probably a few minor concerns of vegetation just to clear sight lines, and then there's one culvert at the low point there that we probably need to establish a regular maintenance on that, just because that's pretty marginal, and want to make sure it doesn't get dammed up, and that there is continual maintenance on that to preserve that part of the road.
So what I'm saying is that I think we hear you about the DEC environmental concerns. We'll go back and circle back around on that.
Yeah.
I'm just asking if there's anything else on the site plan or the narrative or anything that you're concerned about that we can try to address as well, because it sounds like we'll be back in front of you in the future.
No, I think, is there going to be a sign on Route 13? I think that was one thing.
Yes.
Come up before.
That's correct. There will be a sign, and that's on C2. I can share screen again if you'd like, show you. So the sign is depicted here, and the location is right here.
Oh, yeah, okay. Monument style.
Correct. Which I can zoom in if you'd like as well.
Now I've got it. Now I can see it.
So I just want to make sure we capture other concerns you have, that's all.
So that sign placement is outside of the DOT right away, correct?
Yes, that's my knowledge. And I believe that's what's required by town code, if I remember correctly.
Oh,
the
under
previous-
the billboard.
Yeah.
And there are no other businesses or reasons for people to drive down this driveway for the most part, right?
Just the solar and I believe there's a telecommunications tower in that area too, but at the forefront, I believe that's right here where my cursor is, so at the front. And then this repair shop is encompassed by solar, obviously. I know that there are some solar agricultural vegetation, like sheep or something of that nature. So you'll have a farmer down that area every now and then, based on what Emil has told me. Yeah. So, just maintaining the long grass, to my knowledge, underneath the solar facilities. So any maintenance that solar would have, I would imagine they'll have access as customary and probably previously granted under the special use permit by this board.
Yep. And I took the job upon clearing all the vegetation along the route, and then up to the shop. I bought a mower and everything.
Let me see if there's any questions are there any questions or comments from public here?
I think the only thing just for the fire.
Oh, we'll just got, yeah.
I think the only thing that I want to just reiterate, it sounds like we're on the right track again. Because the road access is very important and access around the building for the sake of getting up there if we need to. Hope God we never do, but if we do. I know Mark and people said that they'd like to review this again before we actually go over it, or, guys actually vote on it maybe. The only other thing this is more of a personal thing, just listening to the conversation. And I don't know, I've never been in the car business, but dismantling and scrapping are much different than a scrap yard. And when you're dismantling, you're taking that car and taking parts off it. So that's more like to me, that's more leans towards the scrap side. And maybe I'm wrong. But it seems more like it leans towards scrap and we're taking all we can. And I get it. If I was in the business of doing car work, I would probably do the same thing, because if I can take an alternator off your car,
Yep.
put it on hers, and it saves her a ton of money, and there's nothing wrong with it, I totally understand that. Or a body panel and or what have you.
Yeah.
So I understand all that stuff, but it's
Yeah.
just sounds more like that to me from a personal standpoint. So
Yeah.
that's all.
Yeah, different volume in terms of dismantling. I mean, if you're dismantling and putting it up on parts up on eBay, you're going to be moving a lot more. And
Well, it's similar to a scrap yard, like you pick and pull, for example, is in Binghamton, that you used to hear all the time advertised. So it makes
Yeah.
me think,
I've been there.
oh, thank you.
Well, thanks.
So I just wanted to remind this board that this place has been operating for 2 years out of compliance. If you go on New York State DMV, they're not licensed in any of the automotive categories whatsoever for repair, junk, doesn't matter. And then in terms of the application itself, the amount of vehicles being stored on site hasn't been cleared from the get-go. And the use of the site seems to be very different. In one case, it's saying there are automotive repair. Now if there's 100 cars there, is it a chop shop? Is it a scrap yard? It's just very unclear of what this actual purpose of this is. And then the stream regards, there's been significant modification on the site since it was on the last SUP that was issued here for the streams and the things crossing on the road. And then, in my opinion, this is more of a major subdivision, regardless of whether it's leased or not. There's one common road to multiple different parcels that have different uses. I know we've talked about this with Ray, and we can't quite seem to get a clear answer. And Scotty's was sued by the town for a very similar issue to this. Regardless of where the business is located, it's located within the town of Dryden, must abide by the zoning code of the town of Dryden. So all these places should be treated equally. There's been multiple stop work orders on this site, at least 3 that I'm aware of, and they're continuing to operate. So I don't understand why there's selective enforcement if you're looking at both those businesses.
Yep.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Do we have any comments from folks watching on Zoom? Yeah, it doesn't look like we do. So Ray, we can just, since we don't have any, we're not gonna, nothing. Do anything else because we don't even have any.
Yeah, I've not prepared any draft resolutions we could
Just
leave the hearing open, date certain until next month.
Yeah, we can leave it open until next month and then see if there's been any movement on the things brought up by Gina.
So getting a limit that
Right.
is not, 71 and then more inside the group, probably not valid.
Okay, so you're looking for a total maximum on the site, including interior storage and exterior storage.
It's one business
Okay.
property, so everything should be included.
And then, just again, clarifying question on if he were to move those dismantled cars or a majority of them inside, is that going to assist the town board or this application, or does he need to remove them?
I'll leave
I
that
would
up
say
to
it's-
code enforcement.
That's code.
Not gonna.
Yeah, I mean, the number on site is the number that
Okay,
means something to me.
so it doesn't matter if it's in a garage that you can't see, or if it's, or in a building, so it's
Right, yeah.
anything.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think one of the inspection requirements we should have on this is to have regular access for inspection, and it would be
Oh, yeah,
to enforce that number that is,
okay.
top end.
Okay, we'll circle back around and we'll see what we can do and then come back.
Yeah, and I would say if you haven't started doing your proper licensing, you should look to figure out how you're gonna take care of that.
For
DEC.
I'm not joking. Like
Full
your
review
proper
of your-
business licensing and registration with DEC, because you're gonna be doing it whether dismantler or a repair shop. So I would suggest that you start taking care of that today.
With DEC.
But you have to go through the whole application process. I don't know anything about it. But I can tell you that, I mean, I'm one of the conditions is gonna be you're properly licensed.
I am.
If you are, great. If you're not, get it taken care of.
I'll provide the facility number next time I see you.
I can't hear you.
I'll provide the facility number next time I see you guys.
You should, yeah. I mean, because if one of their planning board members is saying they can't find it, then I'm listening to him, not you. So,
Okay, thank you.
all right, thanks.
Thank you.
All right, so we're gonna go back to 53 Pinckney right now. All right, so I'm gonna, unless there's any further questions or comments, and close the public hearing on 53 Pinckney. So it's one last time. So we're gonna, now it's public hearing for 53 Pinckney Road is closed. So the seeker. So we only need to use the short form on this one?
Right.
So that's what's up on the screen right now. So. So the description is it's for 19 container storage units to be installed. The sides of the property, so that's what you saw that on the sketch plan. All right, so I'm gonna start just going to the questions. Does proposed action only involve the legislative adoption of a plan, local law, ordinance, or administrative rule or regulations? No. Does it propose, number 2 is, does the proposed action require permit or approval or funding from any other government agency? Yes, because it requires the site plan review and the special use permit. The acreage is listed as basically 14 acres. It's in rural residential, or adjoining is rural residential with commercial and also the rail trail is nearby. Number 5, it's a permitted use under zoning consistent with the comprehensive plan. Both are yes. Though the variance is just for the setback from the.
Yeah.
And then that hasn't been approved yet.
Correct. That'll be a July hearing.
Yeah, I mean, is it consistent with the predominant character of existing built or natural land? Adding to the existing storage area. Is the site of the proposed action located in or does it adjoin a state listed critical environmental area? No. Will the proposed action result in a substantial increase in traffic above present levels? No. And anytime any of you want to jump in on one of these, feel
No,
free.
you're doing great.
Right. Are public transportation services available at or near? No, it's not, there's no bus stops over there. Are any pedestrian accommodations or bike routes available near the site? When the well, the rail trail is nearby, but I don't think it, I think it means like right in front of that. Closer to the area because the rail trail is not, I mean, it's a little bit to the north.
Yeah.
So. Will it connect to an existing public private water supply? No. Does it meet or exceed state energy code requirements? No, there's no, I guess it doesn't appear there's anything being done with that. Will it connect to existing wastewater for utilities? No. Does the project site contain or is it substantially contiguous to a building, archaeological site or district which is listed in the National or State Registry of Historic Places, et cetera? No. Is the project site or any portion of it located in or adjacent to an area designated as sensitive for archaeological sites? SHPO? No. Does any portion of the site or of the proposed action or lands contain wetlands? That'd be yes, because that'd be the Campbell Meadow area.
The stream runs into Ball Creek.
Green, yeah. Would it physically alter or encroach into any existing wetland or water body? No. There's no alterations to any of that going on. Typical habitat types that occur are likely to be found on the site as forest. It's like, but none of that's doesn't look like any of that's being affected. Does the site of the proposed action contain any species of animal or associated habitats listed by the state or federal government as threatened or endangered? No. Is it in the 100-year floodplain? No. Will the proposed action create stormwater discharge from either point or non-point sources? No. Does the proposed action include construction or other activities that would result in the impoundment of water or other liquids? No. Has the site of the proposed action or adjoining property been the location of an active or closed solid waste management facility? No. Has the site of the proposed action or an adjoining property been subject of remediation for hazardous waste? No. So does anybody have any comment on that? Right, so I guess we just move to the resolutions. The first one would be the resolution for a negative seeker declaration. So I will move that.
And you might want to show for public record just the part two.
The part two.
It was basically in all 11 categories and nowhere small impact. We often typically just show that up on the Zoom file.
Is that the notice of ground disturbance one?
Or does that have the map?
No, it just is that form that I handed out, a blank one. Folks.
This is the part two he's talking about.
Attachment. You're just looking for this. Only just talks about no significant impacts on the back, and I'll have you sign it after. Draft SEA part 2-3.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I handed out a few blanks. I mean, it's basically, we just quickly read through the questions, the 11 questions, or
Yeah, I mean, if you,
everybody has.
but
it.
I mean, do you have it on your?
I'll have to go back to
Hold
that.
it like that.
Let's go ahead and do the co-host. I can share screen. So this is the part 2 of the part 1 that you just went through. Showing those 11 areas to evaluate the questions there, and the draft responses are that they would all be in the no or small impact.
And it fits with existing zoning, so number one, there's not gonna be a material conflict. Number 2 is, will the proposed action result in a change in the use or intensity of land it's being used the same? Is it? It's just adding more. Will number 3, will proposed action impair character or quality existing community? No. Will proposed action have an impact on the environmental characteristics that cause the establishment of a CEA? We don't have any. So, will the proposed actions result in adverse change in existing level of traffic? Well, that was the same as in the other form. So, no, I mean, it might go up a touch, but it's 19 extra units. It's not much. Will it cause an increase of use of energy, and it fails to incorporate reasonably available energy conservation or renewable energy opportunity? No. Will the proposed action impact existing public-private water supply or water wastewater treatment? No, because they're not connecting them to anything. So there's, will proposed action impair character or quality of important historic? No. Will it result in adverse change to natural resources, wetlands, water body, groundwater, air quality, flora, fauna? No. Will proposed action result in an increase in potential for erosion, flooding, or drainage? No. Will proposed action create a hazard to environmental resources or human health? No. So unless anybody disagrees.
Nope.
No. Okay. Right. So then we can go on to the resolution again. So I'll move the resolution for a negative seeker declaration.
I'll second.
Councilperson Vargas Mendez.
Yep.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. And the next resolution is for approving the site plan.
And you'll notice down in the first resolve, I've drafted in one condition being that the ZBA grants the approval of that 7.5 foot relief from side yard setback.
Yep. Yep. So I'll move this.
Is there a second?
Did you move it?
Yeah.
Oh, second, sure.
Councilperson Vargas Mendez.
Yes.
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 Okay, thank you.
Yep. All right. Then next up, we have I think it's a presentation from the planning board's recommendation for replacement of Article 9 of the Dryden subdivision law, conservation subdivisions.
Hi.
Hi, Tony. Did you have something you need to share on screen?
I do have some things. I will have some things to share. Yeah.
Yeah, and Sebastian, we just finished voting on the 53 Pinckney. Guess he's not listening.
Yeah, thank you. We appreciate your time and the approval. We'll continue forward with the
Okay.
barrier process. Thank you.
Are you signed in on one of these?
I am signed into Zoom. Yeah. I signed in though. I think I might be one of the town of Dryden's.
The other town is right.
Here. Oh, it's letting me share. So. All right. Good evening. So I'll share something in just a minute. So we've done, as you know, we've been working on the zoning rewrite, and part of that included some updates to the subdivision law. I'm trying out a different way of passing these things up to this board. One, which is, you know, in the past, like with the data center law, we just sent it over with a resolution and that was that. I think moving forward with these zoning updates, I think it's better if we come, either I or somebody from the planning board comes and presents what it is we're sending you with some information, and you can ask some questions and hopefully it'll make things a little smoother as we pass these things along. I do want to start by apologizing because I was made aware just before this meeting, right at the beginning of this meeting, that see if this is coming up here. All right. The version of the draft code, which I sent to everybody, apparently has a mistake in it. And so I have up on the screen here, side by side, what we voted on and what was actually sent out. And in the purpose statement, there's a number 8 in the one on the left. That's what we voted on. The one that I sent out is missing item number 8, which is to promote mixed use, mixed income housing options. That piece is missing. So I'd like the opportunity to, I mean, it doesn't change anything that I'm going to talk about. It doesn't change anything that I'm going to show you. But if I can, after this meeting, send you a version which has the correct, text in it. I apologize for that oversight. All right, so why we're here, you know, we were charged with doing this, the conservation subdivision law, we've been working on for several months. This is kind of the zoning and subdivision pieces. This is like, this is really the first product that we're passing up to you. Timing wise, it's because, you know, you have a request, or you've had a request to, you know, implement a moratorium on major subdivisions, and we're hoping this might be a tool that might help with some of what you're considering and whatnot. So there was some timing piece. In all of this, we're trying to, of course, tie to the most recent rewrite of the, or most recent update to the comprehensive plan, Dryden 2045. And there are some major priorities in it, which sort of drove what we're doing here with the conservation subdivision law. And those, you know, one of those priorities is, you know, for more housing development, to develop more affordable housing. There's also protection of Dryden's rural character, protection of ag lands, protection of conservation lands. And then you have this other interest, which is, you know, people being able to do what they want to do with their land, right? So we have these conflicting things, and they don't always play nice together. So part of the challenge here is figuring out something that's a good balance, right? Conservation subdivision is a tool. It's one of the few tools that allow sort of this best of both worlds, where you can allow subdivision, you can allow development and a flexible type of development while still protecting open space and rural character and ag lands and all of the things that we're trying to protect. So it's kind of a way that we can approach some of these challenges where we're trying to balance the pieces. This that we passed up is the result of several months of review and input from the zoning advisory group. We have had input from all the other town boards and from, you know, which would be the, you know, Climate Action Committee and the Ag Board and the Conservation Board and Housing Committee, and they've been actively involved. It's been some good discussions and made some good results as it. The key provisions to keep in mind is this applies to these would be required. The conservation subdivision under this code would be required in conservation and rural agriculture. Currently, the current conservation subdivision law is only required in conservation zones, which if you look at the zoning map, actually, let me bring that up. Because if you look at the zoning map, Dryden, 40 some percent of the acreage in Dryden is in conservation zones. It's big, it's the largest single zone.
Can you say that again? 40?
It's 40, I believe it's 44%. I can tell you just a second. 44.39% of the acreage in, that's the chart I have up there right now, is in conservation. Rural ag is another 30%. What this does, it preserves 50% of a parcel's total acreage as open space, excluding already protected and New York State DEC wetlands. So if you've got 100 acres and 20 acres is wetlands already protected by DEC, it's 80 acres that you're considering, 50% of that would need to be preserved as green space. It preserves or protects farmland. In the previous conservation subdivision, ag lands, prime soils, soils of statewide importance, and all those things were not really considered in the conservation subdivision code. In this new one, those things are required to be inventoried as part of the conservation subdivision. Conservation subdivision does not change density requirements. The underlying zone, doing a conservation subdivision in a rural residential or a rural ag zone, it doesn't mean you can be more dense than what that zone allows, but it just gives you more flexibility into how that's laid out. And that's because it changes site standards, setbacks, and all those other things are within the subdivision can be a bit different, and so you can do things like cluster building in small areas and keep a lot of the land free, or define building envelopes which are included in the deed restrictions and various other things to sort of keep large parts of the parcel open and protected. With farmlands, you can take an 80-acre piece or something and make it, keep it as ag lands, et cetera. Aside from this, there really isn't a whole lot. A lot of tools that the town has that allows you to sort of do those kind of things, right? One thing that we had a pretty significant discussion about had to do with rural residential and whether or not should require this within rural residential. There are those that felt we should. The Housing Committee, the Affordable Housing and Workforce Housing Committee, I felt pretty strongly that if we do that, it really makes the vast majority of the town, this required in the vast majority of the town. The number I was given originally was 91%, but if I look at this work, it's something like 88.7%, something like that. But it's, in other words, if you include rural residential, it's a very large part of the town. There's concerns from the Housing Committee that this adds, it really doesn't, because if you're doing a major subdivision, there's all these things you have to do anyway. But there's a perception that this adds additional steps and additional overhead and additional regulation and which may discourage housing development. And the housing committee doesn't want to see that, right? They don't want to see a decrease in, they don't want to discourage housing development. In fact, we want to encourage it. So we decided to put the recommendation forward with it being required in rural ag and rural and conservation. There's a compromise that was discussed that said maybe it should be required in rural residential that falls within the New York State defined ag district. And so that's why I attached some other research we've done, thanks to Chris. Chris did some mapping and some other things to sort of show it. And in this chart here, you see that rural residential is about roughly 8,000 acres, 13.53% of the town. Sorry, I have to move everybody out of the way on my Zoom window here. There we go. If you look at the overlap, it comes out to about 23.85% of the rural residential zone also is in New York State defined ag district. And I can actually show you what that looks like. Again, I have to move things. So this is an overlay map that shows, so the blue is New York State Ag District. The yellow is rural residential zones. And then these sort of green shaded, you know, where you see the yellow and blue together, those are areas that overlap. So those are parcels and areas where you have an overlap of the New York State Ag District and rural residential. And looking at some of these properties, like there's one here that sits between Yellow Barn and Ringwood Road. This is a property that, you know, we probably would want to see if they were going to subdivide it. We'd probably want to see it done with a conservation subdivision because it's in an ag district. It's zoned rural residential. It's in an ag district, and it's active agricultural land. It's active farmland right now. And so, looking at some of these, it may want to, you know, so what we may want to consider, or what you may want to consider, is possibly requiring conservation subdivisions in rural residential when it falls within the New York State agricultural zone. It's a suggestion. But that's, and I'm sure you'll have plenty of public input on this and various other things. So I think, you know, certainly the next steps in this, right, is that you all consider it and make some decisions. You may make some tweaks. You may not implement it all. You could, you know, it's really up to you with what you want to do. So today there are essentially no local protections on ag land outside of conservation zones. Just something to be aware of. This would help address that. And so that's, I think that's pretty much all I have to say on it. I mean, it's really up to you to, you know, kind of look at and review. If there's other information you'd like, we can certainly provide it. There was a lot of discussion at our ZAG meetings and planning board meetings related to this, with a lot of input. So I think yeah, I think that's pretty much all I had to say, unless there are any questions that come to mind right now. I mean, the ask is that you would review it and possibly, you know, we're not asking for any action tonight. It's really just you consider it and maybe set a public hearing date or whatever you want to do on those things.
Could we take up this issue of whether the conservation subdivision parameters are applied to rural residential at our discretion, or do you think it could, or should we, that language, should it be could or must?
So the language currently for the conservation zone and the rural ag zone are that if you do a major subdivision, it must be a conservation subdivision. With our discussion, we felt pretty strongly that shouldn't be the case. And it's optional in all of the zones. So a conservation subdivision can be used in any of the zones. But it's required for a major subdivision in ag, under this code, in ag and conservation.
And this would give us a real tool to help protect farmland and help protect open space.
I'm sorry.
This would be a real tool to help protect farmland.
That's the intent.
We don't have those protections for farmland now.
Yeah. Right now, there are protections on conservation in
Right.
conservation zones. There are not protections on farmland.
Yeah.
Correct. And one other thing I wanted to point out here.
It's just to put a finer point on that. So
Yep.
are you suggesting that we could right now, as if we do not extend this to rural residential, we could at a later point on a case by case basis without any modification of current law apply it
Mm-mm.
to rural residential? Here.
I don't think we could require it without a modification to the law.
Okay.
Well,
I thought you just said it could be applied. You could apply conservation subdivision.
It can be used anywhere, whether or not we can require. So in other words, a developer could voluntarily say, I'm going to do a conservation subdivision. And that happens. I mean, we've had them, Mill Creek was one, right? That was voluntary.
That was required, but we've had several conservation subdivisions that were discretionary.
Yeah,
And the
where
developer
they,
was,
I mean, because there's some real advantages to it. It really does help. And one of the things that it does is it kind of flips the subdivision process on its head, because it, instead of like looking at a parcel and drawing property lines, parcel lines, there's all these other steps you do first. Your inventory, what's there,
Yeah.
all those kind of things. And then once you have all that information, the last thing you do is draw the lot lines, right? So it's a little bit different. There's nothing that stops anybody from using it, but whether or not we can require it, that's different. And so what I'm saying is that if you feel that it is worthwhile to require it also in rural residential where it overlaps with New York State Ag District, that is something that I would recommend, that's a tweak I would recommend that you make, but.
And I guess I'm following you there, but could we have another caveat saying, in those cases, we could decide on a case by case basis?
Could decide on
Whether
a
to
case by case basis. That might get a little
I
tricky.
mean, I suppose you could put that discretion to the planning board. They're going to be reviewing the major subdivision.
Mhm.
You could write it in to have that
I
decision
say in this
point.
particular parcel, we, though it's not required, we want it. Though it's not outwardly required, we
Well, and
would like to apply it. in this.
if we'd have to just check to see if that, how that might work. But one of the things I noticed in looking at, I have the zoning map up here. And one of the things I noticed when you look at rural residential, like if we look at this one up here in the corner, this is also in an ag district, right? But a lot of this is already subdivided into a lot of small lots. So much of the rural residential is already subdivided and not in these, 200, 300 acre lots, right? But even in here, there are some lots that are somewhat sizable that could be subdivided. And if they were more recently subdivided into say 2 or 3, if they were recently subdivided into say 4, and now somebody just wants to split one of those sublots, it becomes a major subdivision. And if we're requiring conservation subdivision for a major subdivision, now you've got a situation that you are requiring, somebody's just trying to take a lot and split it in two, and now we're requiring them to do a conservation subdivision, which doesn't make a lot of sense in that case, but so there are some things around rural residential. I mean, Dan, that to me, that would be the ideal if you could apply it on, because there are some lots, like I said, like I gave you that one example, there are some lots within rural residential where, it really should apply. And so, but how we can write it in a way that, or how it could be written in a way that would allow that discretion, I'm not 100% sure.
So I don't want to create a bunny trail, and I'm not an expert on this, but because I like that idea, but I also feel like it might be confusing for people.
How do they know if they're in the ag zone?
Right. I mean, would we create a new zone that identifies those locations so that it's not like, well, use this cross-reference chart to figure out where you really live, or
Yeah. So
this is a new zone.
So that is one of the things, and one of the problems with, not one of the problems, but one of the things about this project of rewriting our zoning, we're doing it in phases, right? And if you think about zoning all over the place, you're looking at one thing, but then it references something over here and it references things over there. This phase, we're not looking at the zones themselves. We're looking at the zoning code, and there's pieces that we're working on, but we're not looking at the zones themselves. And like, should this be rural residential or should it be something else? We're not looking at that in this phase. But that certainly is something that is going to need to be done at some point, right? In this whole rewrite, is looking at the zones themselves and saying, are these zones right for what's there, right? But it's not in this phase. That's, so that could be a year, 2 years, 3 years away, who knows, but so we kind of have to deal with what we have in front of us right now, right? But
And I know you said this earlier, but I know I've heard confusion on this. What you brought forward here does not change the math on anything. This is just.
It doesn't change densities. It doesn't change, well, the main thing is it doesn't change densities.
Right.
It does change like how setbacks and those kind of things are considered, because there's some things in it related to setbacks in your farmland and those kind of things, right? Because of the building envelopes, there are some things that change as far as dimensional within the lots, but it doesn't change density. And so the bulk and area table, those kind of things, that is another piece that's referenced, right? That is not part of this phase that at some point will be looked at. And the other thing that was discussed, but it would be in a future phase, is the possibility of offering density bonuses if someone were to choose, like, so if conservation subdivision was optional, offering density bonuses to try to encourage conservation subdivisions, but the density bonuses belong in a whole nother section of zoning that we aren't looking at right now. So it's not something to, not something that we can really do with this right now.
I would expect as next steps, if the board wanted to take action on this recommendation, would be give direction to the town attorney and myself to put this into a format of a local law for then introducing at a future town board meeting, for then setting a public hearing. And you could give direction to, if you wanted to create this overlay district of having where the rural residential intersects with the agricultural district. I'm sure Nate can get creative in the language and make that overlay to the discretion of the planning board as they consider application. And we have to realize the ag districts are constantly in flux. It's not a static map.
Yeah.
So it's going to be.
Right.
Well, that's one of the things about the ag district too. The ag district changes, right? The ag district actually changes more frequently than zoning does. So, and to your point, right, it can cause, because the ag districts do change, it can cause confusion about, is this particular parcel in an ag district or isn't it? Granted, these maps are available to everybody. I think people have to ask for their property to be in the ag district, right? Don't they apply for it?
I believe so, but we have experts here that can answer that.
Yeah.
Yeah, you apply.
You have to apply for it, right?
And it goes to,
Right.
and they have to accept it.
Right.
but It's not. That's less than once a year, I believe.
Yeah. So they do change, but usually people who are in the ag district know they're in the ag district because they've applied to be in the ag district, right? So it's
Over whoever owned the property prior to them.
it could be that they owned the property prior and it was sold, correct?
That's my.
That's yes. But so, that's the only downside of that piece is that it could cause a little bit of confusion. But the other thing that concerned me a little bit with that is that one of the things talked about in the comprehensive plan is the idea of nodal, development near nodal areas, right? And that would be like the villages and along Route 13 and near NYSEG and various other things, right? So there's these nodal areas, Varna, right? Nodal areas. The ag zones, or the ag district, I gotta keep district and zone in the right place because they are two different things, right? But if you look at this map, the ag districts come right into in some cases come right into the village borders. And so if you talk about, wanting to encourage development in the, near the nodal areas, and you put too many restrictions in the ag district, you could run into some issues because some of this, like if you look around this north and east side of Dryden, you see there's a rural residential that's a big chunk of it is also in the ag district, right? And it's right, and it comes right up to the village line. And there's a few places like this, mostly out, it's usually, it's mostly around Dryden and around Freeville. If you get over towards Varna and Ellis Hollow in that area, the ag zones, if you look at what it would be the southwest side of the town, the ag districts are more spotty, right? So they're you can see the bulk of the ag district is in this sort of north and east sides, right? But that would be my only other concern. You have these areas that we're saying we want to encourage more development because they're near nodal areas, but they're in the ag district. And you may get a little bit of a conflict there. I don't know. We'll have to see.
Where a developer might have 50 acres and we're saying they have to keep 25% of that open.
50% of that open, yep.
Yeah,
Yep.
I'm sorry.
Yep.
But that would be 25 acres.
Yeah. But there's a lot you can do, in that density. You could, with 50 acres, you could put a certain number of houses in there and especially if you start thinking about things like duplexes and other types of development, there's things you could do and still keep that green space, right?
But if that's an area that's served by chance sewer and water, and
Right.
we're putting this sort of stringent open
That's,
space
yeah.
reg on there, then we're
that's
denying
another-
opportunity for affordable housing.
Yeah, but
Yep. That's another thing to think about. But
they do it right. It's also setting up affordable housing that's really healthy environment because you're getting a lot of open space and things like
I
that.
think you're setting up no housing.
yeah, right.
That's because
Right.
requiring a developer to set aside half the property that could be developed
Develop,
for
Right.
affordable housing, and to make those numbers work, setting aside half the land is not.
But so you're starting to see some of the challenges in our discussions, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
It's,
But that doesn't sound like an issue so much with this proposal as much
No,
as we
it's-
need
it's
to,
not.
at some point, we need to look at where we have the
It's not.
zones.
That's right. At
Okay.
some point, we may need to look at those zones and how we have them zoned and.
I mean,
and the
that's why I
density.
say these ag districts are arbitrary. They're not
Right.
out of our control.
Right, they are,
Sets them when they shift.
right,
And therefore, that's why I'm thinking a little flexibility in our law that we pass here would be
Right.
desirable.
yes,
Whatever.
yes,
authority
whatever you
is
do,
reviewing
yes,
these,
that would be
have the
decided,
option of applying a conservation subdivision requirement on
correct.
property or not.
Right.
In a rural residential.
And I think if it's in the New York State Ag District and in our either ag or zoning zones, then, I think having it's fine. It's these overlap pieces that have rural residential and ag district that I think might be something where we need that flexibility more, I think, but even with, we may need to look at the ag zones at some point. Because there are these ag zones, things that are zoned ag that are in these nodal, that are in these areas that we've identified for nodal development.
Isn't that part 2 of the zoning?
That is
reg-
part 2, yep.
stuff.
That is part 2, yes.
Do you think you could communicate that nuance to Nate?
Yeah. Yep.
The optional language, that
To
discretion.
leave
could
it
be
discretion of the planning board to apply the tool in these overlay areas
Right.
that are
And-
constantly in flux. Yeah.
Yeah, in these overlay areas, yeah. That's fine. Yeah,
So conservation subdivisions come to the town board.
correct.
When we're done with this process, I mean, is this something we're gonna,
No, conservation.
They come to the
No.
planning board.
they go to?
Planning board. Planning board does conservation
One came
subdivision.
here.
Sorry?
I thought we just,
No.
no, okay.
No,
Alright, so this
SUPs,
would be your
SUPs come
discretion.
here, site plan reviews, things for SUPs come here,
Of course,
not
yeah.
for subdivision. Major subdivisions are planning board,
Okay, so it will be your discretion then.
correct?
Good.
Works
Either
for
way.
us. Any other
No.
questions? So I will, by tomorrow morning, send a correct
Mhm.
copy of the code, and I apologize for that. And thanks to Chuck for pointing it out to me, because I missed it. I looked at that thing 5 times and I missed it. I don't know, but anyway,
That one line,
that one line was missing. Yep,
that's forgivable.
yep. So, all set?
Yeah.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, comment.
Yep.
Yeah, because otherwise people on Zoom wouldn't necessarily hear.
I just want to point out that the whole point of reviewing it was brought forward because the ag group was concerned about the protection of ag land, particularly the protection of soils of statewide importance. And at the end of one of our long ZAG meetings, we had language that we felt did that. And at the last ZAG meeting, in the last half hour of work, they removed most of that language. And I would like you, as you review this, to see if there is anything in there that very specifically protects ag lands of statewide importance. As I'm reading it, as best I could, because the final version got sent out at 4, and actually I didn't receive it, so I had to look at Chuck's just now, but I knew that it was taken out. Yeah, it's that particular part was missing. So take a look. It looks to me like the ag lands of statewide importance are equated as equal to steep slopes, good vistas, all kinds of other things. The language includes ag lands in there, but actually the ag community isn't concerned about protecting all ag lands equally. We're much more concerned about protecting particular soils, which were geological events, and we can't recreate them. So please carefully review that as you do that. Thank you.
Thank you.
One thing I'm aware of that was taken out was the requirement in rural residential.
Yeah.
It was the state, I don't see in there anything about ag lands of statewide importance being very specifically, prioritized over other things.
And there's something in the site design criteria section that says that, I guess the construction should be on the least fertile agricultural soils in a manner that maximizes the usable area remaining for agriculture use. But it doesn't identify the types of soils we're talking about.
Something is going to develop on ag lands. It's the soils of statewide importance.
Yeah.
Which are easiest to dig in, easiest to have any kind of septic or anything. So if a builder comes in and he buys up a farm, they're going to want to build on those soils first. I mean, unfortunately, I didn't get a chance to look at it. I called Gina earlier last week, actually, and said, did you get their new version of what was passed? And she said, no. She said, I don't think it's going to be presented to the town board on this meeting because it hasn't come out. I said, well, let me know when it comes. Well, Tony sent out the new version at 4 o'clock today, apparently. Unfortunately, it's probably my fault that I can't get it because it's would have gone to the Dryden, New York address, I expect. And for some reason, I'm not getting that on my phone. It would be on my other computer, but so I didn't get to look at it in greater detail. But yeah, and I would also like to point out that the overlay map in Dryden 45, is it that thingy? I mean, it definitely shows me, and my understanding is that I am in rural residential, and I'm shown that in the map in the Caldwell room, and I am in the ag district, and it's not green on that map. So the overlay map is nice, and thank you for working on it, but there's errors in it. And again, we didn't get to see this stuff to really go over it, to see if there were any kinds of concerns like this. So, but I just know there's that one error, which is small, but it's me.
Yeah, I'll pull up that draft we had before our last conservation board meeting and compare it and see if there's a difference from that wording that you're talking about.
Yeah, that's the soil map that's in the Dryden 2045 document.
I mean, that last half hour, all of a sudden the focus was not on ag land at all. It was on development, housing. You know, the sort of the focus of what was trying to be achieved.
I don't think that's
Yeah.
So we disagree.
Yeah,
Evan Carpenter with the Ag Committee. I do know that the Ag Committee has not had time to review any of the last changes that have been made to it. And as far as soils of statewide importance, that is something that is easily found. There are state maps with it. You know, it's not something that is local discretion. There are state rules and state specifications as to statewide importance and state considered prime soils. It's easy enough to find. And that language should be included. And I think agriculture and conservation go together. Nancy mentioned something about the way the soils were created by the She may not have used the term glaciers, but that's the way the soils around here were developed thousands of years ago. And they have been protected by agriculture. Sorry, I keep going back to Trillium Woods, but that's a great example. There's ag land there, Trillium Woods are there. I've heard it said that if it was purchased by a farmer as opposed to a developer, they could clear cut the woods and drain the land all in the name of right to farm. But there's a responsibility when you have the land, and farmers understand that. Trillium Woods is there because it's been surrounded for centuries by farmland. There are other areas around town where there are nice, scenic, unique areas surrounded by farmland. You don't find unique areas like that surrounded by a housing development. You don't find it on Park Ave, Pond Drive, Highland Drive. There are not those unique areas, but it's the same soil types. Why have they not, why are they not there? They might have been, but they're not surrounded by agriculture anymore. And those unique areas are gone. Farmers take care of the conservation areas. It's in our ethos. It's what we do. We care for the land because we make our life from the land. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, Craig.
So hello, everybody. First, I'd like to thank the planning board for their hard work on this. I know they've worked a lot on it, and it's not always gloom and doom, right, Tony? I know Ag asked me to look at the last draft, and it had flaws in it. I haven't even reviewed this one, looking at it, but a couple of things I'm just going to point out. Nancy's correct on a lot of things, but you could do a special provision on rural residential farmland within that area. Could have a special provision, say conservation subdivision, if it touches one of those areas. The easy way to do it, we do special provisions in the code already. That's one way. The other thing I thought about is, I don't know why the list of things that are in constraint, I think should be prioritized. And, like prime soils first, soils of statewide importance. And that would protect it from a developer. If you took an area, let's just say like up on Ed Road, or Ed Hill Road, it's 220 acres, protect 50%. He needs 110 acres. If you prioritize the ag land first, it would protect all of the ag land. And then plus the Trillium Woods, put that on that list. UNAs, this and that. So I think there's some work that needs to be done on this draft. Unfortunately, there's a timing issue with the ZAG meetings, so the first of the month, and they don't get their copies done till the end of the month. You got the boards meeting in the middle of the month, so they don't get it for another whole month. So there's like 2 months, a month and a half goes by from when ZAG does a copy, it's done. They missed that first meeting. It shows up now, and that's what's happened now. This draft, nobody's seen it. So we can't even interact with it. And it's completely different than the draft we had a month ago.
No, it's not.
Yes, it is. Huh? It is completely different. It's different. But anyway, that's all I want to say. Okay. So I think we need time to look at it. Thank you.
Yeah. Please take a look. I just ran a review of any wording changes, and I'm not disagreeing because I remember I was talking about the soils but I'm not seeing them in the last draft that was sent, that the conservation board had a month ago. So it looks like that language, if it was ever made it into the document, changed before that last month ago review. So, but all the more reason it's here before all of us so that we can continue that conversation and get to the bottom of it.
Can you say that again?
Part of the subdivision process is that you have to inventory everything that's on the land. And traditionally, that's included things like wetlands and UNAs and those kind of things. But in this case, it's also including soils of statewide importance, prime farmlands, and those kind of things. All those things have to be inventoried, so you know where they are on the property. And then, like I said, the last thing you do in the process of the conservation subdivision is draw the lot lines. Right, so, and so when you talk about the issue, part of the issue becomes, you know, ag obviously would like to see the first priority be the soils of statewide importance or the prime farmland. The conservation board would like to see the first priority be the UNAs and Trillium Woods and those kind of things. And so the, you know, part of the issue becomes when you have a particular property, the Ed Hill Road property is a little bit unique in the fact that it has so much different stuff on it. Like there's farmland there, there's UNAs, there's DEC wetlands, there's the fir swamp, right? There's a lot of stuff on that particular property. If you look at the example that I showed earlier, which is the one between Ringwood Road and Yellow Barn Road, it's pretty much all farmland, right? So if you apply a conservation subdivision to a lot like that, it's the farmland that you're protecting because that's what's there, right? So it's, you know, the conservation subdivision law, and again, we can tweak it, or you can tweak it, you know, however we think is appropriate. But the idea is that, you know, you're inventorying all the things that are on this property, and then 50% of the land needs to be kept as whatever, right? Essentially undeveloped. Which you can, you know, you can do large lots that are agricultural land, right? As part of the subdivision, right? So it's.
So if I recall, then the thoughts of the planning board at that point were the prime lands and farmlands of statewide importance could be incorporated into that 50% that's protected.
Correct.
And that, as it was described at the meeting, the planning board passed this unanimously in terms of sending it to us. So I understand what you're saying, Nancy, but I think the planning board came to the conclusion that that would be part of the review process.
And I will go back and do a comparison. Kind of Spring already did it a little bit, but there were the changes that were made at the last ZAG meeting were very small. And the primary one was removing rural residential, was removing it being required in rural residential zones. That was the sort of the most significant change that was made. There were a couple of little I think, word tweaks, typo fixes, but that was about it. And so, you know, the boards, this draft conservation subdivision law has been out there for about 6 months. And circulated amongst the boards and all those kind of things. And so, and there were ZAG people at that meeting that saw what was changed as it was being changed. So I don't believe that I don't believe that there were real significant changes made at the June.
And I'm of a mind to think that due to there's a fairly limited amount of acreage in this town that falls in those categories of prime farmlands and farmlands of statewide importance. You may have recalled us planning, Ray and Gina and myself working with one of my students to do some estimations of how much land is actually in that category. And he did send us a nice memo earlier this month indicating that it's 7.8% of the town's total land mass that would fall into prime farmland farmlands of statewide importance and prime farmlands if drained. It totals, 4,500 acres. So we're not talking about a lot of property, a lot of acreage in our overall land mass. And that makes me think that if we had a parcel that was going through the conservation subdivision process, we'd be able to protect that if we kept in mind that 50%.
You're going to be able to
needs to
protect
be-
parts of it. I mean, keep in mind that you can't force someone to keep farming land, right? If somebody owns some land, you can't force them to keep farming it. And so if they want to do something else with it, I mean,
I know.
what do you do? So,
Yeah. We don't talk about that in our comp plan.
Yeah.
There's private property or private land not mentioned once in the comp plan.
right,
We talk a lot about the need to preserve open space, but property rights,
right.
not in the comp plan, which
That's right.
is an interesting, phenomenon.
And I personally, I understand the concerns of each group, right? I understand the concerns of the Climate Action Committee. I understand the concerns of the Conservation Board. I understand the concerns of the Ag Committee. And what we're trying to do is try to balance all of those. And that has some challenges, right? I'm not trying to say that any of that should be ignored or not considered. It should be.
So because I do remember conversations about, there was a couple sentences about calling out the importance of soils of statewide importance and some other things. If people want to bring that language back and suggest edits, that's perfectly okay,
Yep,
right?
Yep. Oh,
Okay.
Yeah. If you want to put stronger language about statewide, soils of statewide importance and how they should be treated and inventoried, that's certainly an
I
option.
think we would do that, add that to the review process and,
Oh, yeah.
but the list of things that need to be inventoried.
Well, and one of the things we do is and going back to the Ed Hill Road property, fortunately, in that case, there's a developer that is being responsive to suggestions and those kind of things. So it's one of the things that they did was, there was like, what was it, 86 acres, I think, of farmland, or that was being farmed, and something like 60 of it is in 2 30-acre lots that could be used as agriculture moving forward. And the only reason it's split up into two is because there happens to be an existing house right in the middle of it with a driveway that comes down through it. So trying to make it all one lot was kind of a bit of trouble. But my point is that, as part of the going back and forth, as part of the site plan review, as part of the all of that's done before the planning board, things can be, working with the developer, things can be encouraged and tweaked to hopefully make it as good of a project as we can get it, kind of thing. Can't guarantee that it's always going to make everybody happy, but in fact, it probably won't. But it's what it's a tool that the conservation subdivision is a tool that we have.
Yeah,
that's the way to put it, I guess. Sorry, I've been doing too much talking. So.
All right, so a redraft of that will come that adds a provision that all right, well then we might then, as we go to pass this, add language so the things that will be reviewed will be the giving priority to preserving prime farmland and the soils of statewide importance as a criteria for that 50% protected space.
And I could put some notes in that are sort of additional things to consider if you want. I could make it as like a public comment because you're going to have to do a public hearing on all of this.
Please do. That would be perfect.
But then the protection part comes at the site plan, the sketch plan, the site plan review, correct?
Yeah. Where they hear from the planning board, well, actually, you gotta do this.
Because the way I think it would work on a lot is that you're gonna identify where these soils are and then design the ag area and the subdivision, whatever, and then however many, whatever the density was, that's allowed for, say, it's easy, just use 100 acres. That gets compressed onto the part that where they're allowed to actually build. That's what we're talking, because when you talk about density, you're talking about the per acre, but when you're preserving a huge portion of the subdivision area, you're going to compress whatever was allowed in the. So if you had
1 acre lot.
1 acre lots, you'd be able to compress them into the 30 or whatever you actually develop, and then the rest of it remains open space. That's the thought here.
Yeah.
Okay. So I think that's kind of what we were getting at the ag committee too. So you want to make sure that they're only going to build in those areas that are less desirable for ag and for environmental protection too. Okay.
Yeah, it'll never look like cluster housing unless there's water and sewer.
Yeah, I mean, those areas that are next to the village though, that could, like, clustering is a lot easier.
Yeah, that'd be ideal.
And if, but other areas it won't be as easy unless we're running sewer or water out. Okay, so I guess, but it has to get this, the ag committee is gonna meet, is it gonna meet in July? Okay, so.
Yep.
Yeah.
So we want to try and pass this and.
Well, I mean, if you're gonna have a draft, Nate and Ray would have to start working on something that we can then
Introduce
at
it
least
July.
present. So the ag committee would meet before that meeting. So the edits or whatever they're looking for, still get into it before we talk about one that would then get published for a public hearing. And because the earliest that would get, you'd even have a hearing on it would be August. Because of the just timing of it, because Ray and Nate would have to do it, because we're not gonna. I don't think we wouldn't be able to do one any earlier than probably the first. Yeah. And I know for the fire one, we were talking about having a separate meeting anyway.
Okay, so we won't look to do this in July. We'll shoot for August.
Well, yeah, we'd have to have a version presented like that we can introduce in July for an August. But that would also give the ag committee time to comment. And then at the meeting is when we can make the adjustments.
Yeah.
In July. So then, because whatever we adjust during the July meeting becomes the version that then gets published for the public hearing.
Okay.
So I think that would work. So you guys, so the our July ag committee meeting will be,
As of right now, you don't have the final draft that is.
No, but this will get sent out because Tony's going to send. He sent.
If you were voting tonight, you would not be voting, you would not be seeing.
Right. Yeah, we're not doing that tonight. Yeah. What happened is this what the version Tony sent out today will go to everybody. But Nate and Ray can start putting it in the proper form because it's going to have the same language. But then at the July meeting, we could the ag committee's comments, and that's when we would all discuss it. And if we're going to make any changes, whatever changes we make in July to that document is the one that would get published for the August meeting.
Yeah, because we want it out for public comment so that everybody can make comments on it.
Yeah, that's what August is for. But prior to that, we want all the conservation, planning, ag, whoever else
So
So that-
August, we would open a hearing for. the
Yeah, August would-
And a possible vote then in September.
Yeah, yeah, depending on how many things you needed to consider in August. I mean, if everybody's happy in August, then, you can theoretically take care of it then, but if there are suggested like substantive changes in August, then you wouldn't handle until September.
I thought with the proposed law, it has to be open for a month.
No.
Nope.
No, once you publish, so in July, we'll decide on what we're publishing for the public hearing. And then, so if in August, there's no additional changes suggested, you can then move forward then. But if there are, and they're not just trivial, like,
Well, for instance, we have to send something to the county for 239.
yeah,
And they would need to see that by when? In order-
30 days is.
30 days. Well,
Yeah,
that's the
so-
30 days that I'm getting in my head that
Yeah.
we need.
So some months we have that, some months we don't. So I'll see
Yeah.
what.
So if we don't,
Is between July and the. So it'd be July 16th would be the introduction of the local law. And then in August, our third meeting is the 20th. So we would have time to give.
Yeah.
39
So if we
review
introduce
for
this on
30
the
days.
16th.
right.
Okay.
But yeah, then, but it's the public, oh yeah, so. But 16th wouldn't take into account comments from the different advisory boards. And then August would have the public comment plus any additional things from advisory boards. And then if there's substantive.
In the county.
Yeah, in the county, but if there's things that are, if we make any substantive changes to it based on those comments, or we get substantive ones, you wouldn't act on it until September.
Right. Okay.
But yeah, and you'd keep the public hearing open. So, I mean, realistically, September is probably when it would get voted on, but you never know.
Now, in the event, well, suppose we pass this in August, it would not apply, or could it apply to the Ed Hill proposal?
You'd probably want to make that very clear in the law,
Yeah.
whether it's going to be retroactive to applications already received on the table.
They're already doing it anyway, though.
Well,
Isn't the Ed Hill Road, they're already going based on the proposed laws, right?
the
So-
current law. Are they?
No, they're going based on the future law.
Their review and analysis went beyond the current subdivision, conservation subdivision law.
The current, but what are they adhering to the proposed?
Yeah.
I would have to do a real detailed analysis of the thing. It appears like most of the things are in their inventory, yes.
Okay.
And has been before the consideration of the planning board, yes.
But if we were to require a mapping of the prime soils or the soils of statewide significance, have those been mapped on the Ed Hill?
They're in the inventory, certainly,
They're
yeah.
in the inventory. Okay. Great. So we're already doing it.
Okay.
Right.
Okay, is there anything else on this from anybody? Okay. Or I guess I should check the Zoom world. Nope, it's mostly us. Okay. All right, so we'll move on to I guess Ray, you're planning to.
Yes, and unfortunately, I have a very important correction to make to the planning department update. I was put in there that it would have preliminary plat review for this Trillium Woods subdivision, and that is not happening. We don't have preliminary plat. So that is at this stage a sketch approval by the planning board, but we're yet to receive the preliminary plat.
Okay.
All right. And. Right, and then I guess Dan, if you had any county stuff you want to talk about.
Hi, all. No rocket science here. A lot of usual stuff. We got some bridge work going on. We've got some monies being shuffled around today at the Facilities and Infrastructure Committee meeting. There was a presentation on the geothermal option for the center of government. We are really excited about this because it should do the whole downtown campus for us. They're proposing an open loop system, tapping into the underground water, putting the primary transfer, thermal transfer in the bottom of the old jail, and using that to do 4 buildings. So pretty exciting stuff. We were pleased. We were very pleased.
How deep do they have to go?
The 2 proposed wells, the final, design needs to be done, but they're proposed at 175 feet. One would be over at the corner by the Center of Government building, and the other would be on the front corner of the Daniel D. Tompkins building. So those are separated by what? 150 yards, 200 yards, whatever that is. And that's what you want to get when you're in a reservoir like that. You want some separation.
Cool.
I don't have no big shakes coming at you here.
Yeah.
Unless you got questions for me.
No, I mean, I guess in the building, it's still gonna go where that old, the bank and the other, the turn, yeah.
Well, yeah, several months ago, it was the current legislature decided they wanted to pull that back. We've limited at this point that to 45,000 square feet and 50 million. That's the target. So the architect Holt needed to go back to the drawing board and trim some things. The current design does not have a 4th floor other than for mechanical. But it is structurally there in case they want, in the future to go up with it to that 4th floor.
How's the budget looking?
It's starting. They're still gathering information. I haven't any further information. We had our kickoff meeting early May, I think it was. No, it's middle of June now. Maybe it's further back. It must have been the tail end of April. I don't remember. It was we met at the Whole Health building and kicked it off. It's gonna be a challenge. No questions about that. There was some discussion of well, we just passed the tax cap exception, for the levy. And there was, significant discussion on amongst the legislators about that. And just because we did that doesn't mean we're going to actually exceed that amount, right? And everybody needed to understand that. But I did remind everybody that since I've been on the legislature, have enacted a policy regarding our fund balance. And if we adhere to that policy, by definition, we have to start putting some of that fund balance back. So this is going to be an interesting discussion coming up. And several legislators have already put their foot down and said, I'm not voting for any one-time spends.
Not going to vote for any one-time expense?
One-time OTRs, one-time requests.
Okay.
Rather than like an annual thing, it's a 1-year thing, but the departments often come and say, we just need this year.
Yeah, those are like special provisions that get added by legislators.
Okay.
All set. Yeah.
Thank you.
Cool. Thank you, Dan. Hopefully you feel better.
It's settling in, so I'm being cautious.
Yeah.
Feel better. Drink fluids.
Wait, Tim, Amanda, did you guys have anything you want to talk about?
Pete's working tonight.
Oh, okay.
So you want to give you the chief report if you'd like?
Sure.
Anybody still online? Few of them?
Yeah, we're still online. Even though it's mostly just us.
Well,
I
there's a
think
couple.
we got Fred and Marie, but otherwise it's just.
Kathy can
just
take me
us.
anytime she wants.
Yeah.
So there's, this last month, there was 26 calls. Still averaging about a dozen medical calls a month, EMS rescue. Average firefighters 5.7 out the door in 2 minutes, 52 seconds. The other thing that's a little bit notable, as some of you may know, we just recently, about a month ago today, graduated 5 new interior firefighters.
Cool.
We're actually hosting the EVOC class because they were trying to find a place. We're hosting EVOC down here, so you're gonna see some activity down there. Thursday nights and then Saturdays for a couple weeks. So that's really nice. We've had 3 people in it, but there's a total of about a dozen or more people in the class for, and EVOC is Emergency Vehicle Operations course. If
Yeah.
you're not familiar with that, forgot about that. It's easy for me or maybe Christina to understand, but we hear those terms all the time. Other than that, it's been kind of a, I want to say that word too loud because that usually puts us in a different perspective.
Yeah.
But, yeah, everything went well today, and I don't know how things went for you guys around the town, but I know we only had a couple of calls, thank God.
Oh, good. Yeah.
Well, luckily no tornadoes.
There was other areas that the county instituted what they call storm protocol, which brings everybody into the departments. We had 14 people that showed up today to handle the calls.
Yeah.
You want this for more?
Yeah.
What you got, Dan?
So has anything happened with the facility since, we agreed to transfer it to Neptune for management and development as a training center? What's happened since, I guess that was April on this issue?
The last I heard, and Mark would be the best one to ask this to, I know that they're in the process of going through, just as if you or I buy a piece of property. There's all the inspections and making sure that everything that you say is there or not there is correct. I know there was some concerns of a underground tank that they're identifying and handling right now. Otherwise, as far as I know, it's moving forward. It's just a matter of the lawyers doing their part and inspections and all that through that. Again, just like you do with you buying a house, it's a little more in depth probably, I'm guessing, because it's commercial property. But other than that, things as far as I know are
Are
moving
the
along good.
vehicles still over there or have they been
I
moved?
could not tell you the truth. I
think at
don't
the
know.
moment, since we don't.
Because we don't have any say over it at the moment.
Well, the trailer ATV were sold,
Correct.
and then you'll see a pickup truck.
Yes.
Those are the only 2 that
I would be comfortable saying that, but I agree with you 100%. I know where that truck is.
Where's the truck?
West Dragon Road. He's like, not saying.
You can go for a drive and you see it.
Legally, I mean, we've voted to give you this property to authorize the transfer. So legally, one of us has to happen for Neptune to take full.
To get through the whole process
The paperwork.
and make sure the paperwork is accurate and correct. If I sell you a house and I don't disclose everything and it's Stellick's property out here in the village.
There's no sale involved here.
No, but Dan, what I'm saying is whether I give it to you or transfer it to you, do you want to assume all the responsibility and liability if I don't disclose something to you? Once the transfer happens, you would ultimately be responsible for that. And it's no, I say sale. If a transaction takes place between 2 individuals, in this case, a piece of property, you want to do your due diligence and be sure that everything is accurate and correct.
Yeah, I thought.
And you can't it'd be like somebody having an oil tank in the ground at your home or a propane tank in the ground at your home. You want to make sure that is not contaminated, is not compromised in any way. Otherwise, if we don't tell you that, you take possession, you're responsible and liable for cleanup.
Maintained. I guess my concern is there's over $1 million worth of equipment over there and, that's bought by the Dryden taxpayers, and we want to make sure that it's maintained and not let to deteriorate or anything else. You know?
Yeah, the property ownership makes sense, but the vehicles and the equipment. I'm not being judgy, I'm just learning, but those are a little different than a property's transition. It's not like the same
They're
90-day
part
drama.
Of the acquisition or the transfer.
So to your knowledge, you're the Neptune attorney. Who's your attorney?
That you would have to ask Mark to be certain.
An attorney for Neptune is working with Brad Penske, I would imagine, for Aetna, because he represented them previously.
I believe so.
All right.
Yeah, they're. No offense, Jason. You know how lawyers are sometimes.
Yeah,
And I don't mean that in a bad way. It's just anything we do that's when it comes to legality stuff.
But we'd love, at least I'd love to get an update on what's
So we
happening.
are not like dragging our feet. We are waiting for all of the
Yeah.
things. And I think we did get like a little bit of a, hey, if it's not in your possession, try not to do anything to compromise anything. Don't take anything. Don't, just be respectful and just wait a little bit. But, but we aren't trying to like drag it out. We're kind of more like, hey, when can we make this happen? But I don't know where we are exactly in the process. I know we're still waiting.
Well, if you could let Chief know that, if he comes here in July, I'd love to get an update on the status
I'll tell Mark.
of the plans that he presented.
Because he's still heading it up.
We were hoping to have it kind of finalized by June.
Yeah.
And now we're hoping for July. Like our best hope is July.
Great. All right.
Hang in there.
Anything else?
No.
Nope.
Thanks for being easy on me.
Yeah, thanks.
Gotta get used to this part.
Yeah. All right, and then, guess we just have the committee or report stuff if anybody wants to do them, or you can always skip if you want. Yeah, you emailed
You know
yours.
what's going on.
Planning and everything, yep. And Rail Trail Bridge is being built.
Great plans. And we're also finishing up the other bridge, the smaller one that was led by Charlie Troutman from the Cornell Engineering Program.
Yeah, I saw
That's now completed. It's I don't think it's open for public access yet, but it's
Very
it's a
exciting.
beautiful thing, and I think it's a great partnership between Cornell and the Park Foundation and a number of Finger Lakes Runners Club, a bunch of other groups that involved.
It's too bad they can't build a bridge over Freeze Road. They could probably get it done a lot faster.
There's I was talking to our consultant this week about this, so I talked to Wendell.
Yeah, they gotta get it.
Yeah.
Gotta get there and get it done.
Sore spot, but we haven't forgotten about it.
Yeah. And then just the only thing with DRYC, I mean, they meet next week, but last month they talked about they were looking at a near plays grant, but there's work that like basically every playground in the town needs, other than Montgomery Park, needs work. Dryden Lake's been on the back burner for years. Aetna needs, I mean, I actually, last time it got redone, I helped with it. It was that long ago, it was 2008 or 9 we did it.
Bill's working on Rodan Park.
Yeah.
They've done already done a lot of work.
But yeah, the one problem with that New York Plays grant is you can't put one grant application in for multiple playgrounds, so they have to put multiple applications in. Which is mind-numbingly stupid, but that's, New York.
I do want to add about the Route 13 bridge. We are looking to have a soft opening end of October, so it will be open to the public by the end of October. We're looking to do a press event then. Been in touch with Senator Gillibrand's office about her attendance and Josh Riley's office, so pencil that in as a possibility for the end of September or end of October. Exciting thing that we'll do, and then we'll do a grand opening in the spring where we, have skydivers and flamethrowers,
Skydivers and like with a skydiver with a flamethrower.
a flyover, jet flyover, whatever.
Bungee jumping from the
USD
bridge.
fights. We'll do it up big.
Sweet.
We could
I
set
think
up
what the people on Hallwoods Road would like.
If I could add one thing, y'all remember that tree offer that Jason sent to us? I
Yes.
pursued that and we got trees.
Good.
And then they offered me more trees. So 3 trees have arrived and we're getting 3 more. They arrived at DPW this week and they're off at one of our rail trail committee members' house right now. So she's gonna take care of them.
That's
until they're ready to
awesome.
plant.
One last thing, okay, and it has to do with for the housing committee. The Fisher Associate Bononsky actually provide us with the final result of the project, the study that we did on so-called Leonardo's property. Yeah, and it is available, right? I don't know whether we have passed it
I'm
around.
going to take the feedback from the last meeting and provide a final. He hasn't.
Apply.
provided that
Okay,
yet.
he hasn't done it yet. Okay, all right. So, but we will have a final, rather soon.
All right.
Conservation Board has been discussing the conservation subdivision article.
We're gonna miss that issue.
Yes.
But we'll have new ones, Dan, to talk about instead, so. Okay,
All right.
rock and roll.
Yeah,
That's it.
just a question on with the rail trail bridge thing though, I guess some trees got cut and or I guess there was screening for the Hallwoods Road. So is that part of the plan to replace the trees or things that were cut as part of whatever they had to do for this construction? Because I've been getting asked questions by a
The
couple-
residents on Hallwoods Road.
yeah.
That too many trees were cut.
Yeah, because I think previously they couldn't even see the Route 13, and I guess now there's places they can.
Well, the physical ramp is going to mitigate a lot of the view.
Well, right, but it's not, I don't think it's just there, so I think it's in the plan.
Last week went in and did some more tree cutting because they're going to put some new poles along Hallwoods Road as part of the rerouting of their electric and they've added to that Hallwoods Road infrastructure. So yes, there is new infrastructure, trees coming out. So at some point, I think the rail trail should put some vegetation back in.
Yeah. Okay. Public comment?
Public comment?
Since you're the only citizen here. You're the only one here, Marty. Unless Fred's got something he wants to add for citizens privilege, but otherwise they're done. Okay. All right. Move to adjourn. Thanks again, folks.